Bungie just dropped a massive article detailing all the successes and shortcomings of Lightfall and a bunch of changes that are coming to the game, including this right here, which is focused decoding. We'll get to this in just a moment. In today's video, I'll be reading through a lot of the different bullet points. I've read through the entire article a few times now, so I'm going to bring you the brief TLDR and talk about a lot of the exciting and interesting things in this article. So first up, at the very, very top, we have reflecting on Lightfall, launch and beyond. They go through some of the statistics with Lightfall, and it's actually pretty impressive. With Lightfall's launch, Destiny 2 saw its highest number of concurrent players in years. We welcomed more new lights, returning players, and daily active players than we did in the Witch Queen's launch last year. We surpassed our sales expectations for a new expansion, and we were absolutely blown away by the record-breaking viewership for our world's first race with Root of Nightmares. Lightfall's OST even debuted as the #1 soundtrack on iTunes against some very steep competition, which warmed our hearts to see. So there you have it. Those are some of the successes of Lightfall. Now they go on to talk a little bit about ranking up and the ranking system. They're going to be doing some changes to this. We have Guardian Rank should serve as a guide to let you know what you should be doing to improve your Guardian, especially if you're new to the game. They should create a social signal to others so that you can quickly glean some information about a Guardian skill within Destiny 2. So obviously your rank will let people know this person knows how to do a raid, etc. They go through that all throughout this article right here. We have meeting our goals. They're going to be making some changes to Guardian ranks right here. So how will this manifest in the game? When starting a new season, your rank displayed to everyone will reflect your highest rank earned last season. And if you achieve a higher rank than you did last season, it will be your new displayed number. So they want this rank to carry out through each season. So keep that in mind. Let me know what rank you are down in the comments below. They did make a brief mention about Forever 6 and then the longer term. And we're planning on remixing ranks 6 through 11 to provide a better expression of skill between those ranks. Once these changes are out in the wild, we'll continue to monitor the data, determine which other long-term changes are needed to ensure we feel good about our updated objectives. So this season, everyone started with like 6, and then next season, you're going to be starting like rank 5. It'll be faster to rank up to 7 than it was this season to go from 6 to 7, etc., etc. Let me know your thoughts about the current ranking system. Are you grinding that rank? Myself, personally, I don't really take it too serious, but I know a lot of you do, and you probably should. It helps to identify people in the game that have a similar skill set as you do. Then we have commendable objectives, which commendations have been something of a joke throughout the entirety of Destiny's launch, and has been a little bit of a hot topic. We have, in our March 30th update, we made some reductions to commendation requirements. They removed Guardian rank objectives required to give commendations from rank 7 to 9. They're doing a variety of different adjustments to commendations. And then they say building social systems is always challenging. Even in a studio with hundreds of people, you never know how things are going to behave in the real world until we put it in the hands of the players. The best part of this community is that you're not afraid to give us input. Constructive feedback is always appreciated and essential to helping us get things to the best possible state for everyone. And we'll keep monitoring and evolving our system so that they can reach our goals. The biggest takeaway from this is probably this one right here, is that in the up and coming weeks, we're planning additional updates to make receiving commendations more meaningful, adding a new commendation, best dressed commendation. So this will actually be, instead of it just being something generic like thoughtful and joyful and, happy person, instead it's going to be something more specific, like you're the best dressed. Let me know what type of commendation ideas you think they should give to different Guardians in there. And do you think you'll actually get the best dressed commendation? Do you think you'll get that one? Moving down to the next part, we have difficulty adjustments. Now, obviously, when Lightfall launched, they did that entire article where they're talking about bringing challenge back to Destiny. And it's a really weird approach that they took, because they made patrols really difficult, and then they made the raid launch in contest easier. If you don't know, they've actually tested, many people have tested, the enemies in patrols are more difficult than the enemies inside the raid, which seems very odd that the end game content has less challenging combatants than patrol, which was meant to be the entry level content. So obviously they have done a ton of different adjustments, but overall, the recent one is that they have removed the HP scaler by 10% in Legend and Master activities to basically bring things down a little bit, because it was jacked up way too high and it was kind of unnecessary. And then on top of that, they didn't really reward us very well for doing so. Like, you weren't given better loot for facing more challenging enemies. This is an issue that we talked about in that Lost Sector video. Then we'll talk about Heist Battlegrounds. They're going to be nerfing Heist Battlegrounds Mars a bunch, because that one's kind of ridiculous. If I can be honest, it's just so much to that, so many enemies you have to fight, etc. So that one definitely deserves it. And the same thing to the other Battlegrounds. They're all getting some adjustments and to be brought down and in line with the other strikes in the playlist and everything else. So I actually think that's a good change. Then we have the Neomuna Patrol they're talking about. They actually are pretty happy with this overall. And the adjustments that they're doing is they're increasing the spawn rate of the Vex Strike Force in the Vex Incursion Zone. Partition activities are now replayable each week after earning your initial Pinnacle Power reward. And in a future patch, certain patrols will be easier to complete. So they're basically making Neomuna a little bit easier because it was a little too difficult right off the rip. Then we have Terminal Overload. The biggest takeaway from this is just the Terminal Overload Director node now more reliably matchmakes you with other players who are participating in the Terminal Overload, which is an excellent adjustment. They also mentioned about Lost Sectors. They're actually pretty happy with the way that Lost Sectors went on launch. And with the recent adjustment to a 10% nerf to enemy HP, this should make them a little easier to beat. Not to mention, you did technically get a 2% increase in drop rates to exotics. Now, I don't think that 2% is enough, but at least if we're going back to a comparable difficulty pre-Lightfall and you have 2% more, I guess maybe that's a fair adjustment. I wish it was higher, but it is what it is. They mentioned Threshers, how they have nerfed their offensive utilities. They still take they have a bunch of HP and take a bunch to actually kill, but they've nerfed their offensive utilities so they don't one-hit kill you as much. They mentioned Vanguard scoring and reputation. In a future patch, we will take a pass at low map score multipliers and individual objectives to make sure everything feels better, specifically Guardian ranks, Nightfall scoring objectives, and Legend Dares of Eternity bounties, and a throttle to prevent certain exploits as an optimal score strategy, which is Slayers. After Season 20 concludes, we plan on doing a full review of Vanguard scoring over the entire season and may have other tunings to make. Moving on down to the next part, we have exotic armor drop rates. When we built the Legend and Master Lock sectors in Beyond Light, we envisioned them to be with two main gameplay goals. The player should have a place to test their builds solo against endgame content. The player should have a place to acquire new rolls of exotic armor with some amount of determinism. They mention about how they realize that they've placed a lot of pressure on Lost Sectors as a source for exotic armor, and obviously this is, not necessarily the best way of doing things. So now they're going to be putting some of that pressure on the Vex Incursion Zone so that way you can get exotic armor rolls. If you don't have any exotic armor left to collect, it will drop an exotic armor roll from those incursion zones. So that's an interesting change right there. Then they have coming in Season 21. Now that we've covered some of the changes we're focusing on during the remainder of Season 20, let's look ahead. We've got more quality of life updates in the works for Season 21, in addition to the adjustments coming to Guardian ranks and Commendations mentioned earlier. First up, let's hear from the Armor and Expressions team about what's being added to build crafting next season. New build crafting updates. We completely revamped the armor mod system and made a lot of changes to how build crafting works in Lightfall. As always, with such sweeping changes, we anticipate there will be reactions from the community that require us to make adjustments and additions. One of the most common pieces of feedback we've received on the new armor system is that players would like to better integrate their subclass and their armor mods to have a way to gain armor charge by picking up stasis shards, void breaches, fire sprites, and ionic traces. So now we have a new mod, which is going to be powerful attraction. When using your class ability, you collect all orbs within a radius determined by the number of copies of the mod you have equipped, which is awesome. This is basically going to be like seeking orbs or like seeking wells. If you remember that back in the day, this has been a highly requested thing. So that sounds really awesome. And then we have elemental charges, which is collecting the subclass collectible associated with your damage type, fire sprites, ionic traces, etc. Has an escalating chance to grant you a stack of armor charge. That sounds great. Not to mention, shoot to loot can be used to collect orbs of power in addition to ammo boxes. So I'm actually really looking forward to all those changes. Then we also have some upcoming aspects, which is Titan. We have Flechette Storm, Hunter, Threaded Spectre, and Warlock the Wanderer. Those are going to be coming to the new Strand classes. Excited to see what those are all about. We have Artifact Perk Refunds, which is basically just a way to refund all of your artifact mods with a single click. Then we have the Seasonal Ritual Schedule. We're constantly looking for new ways to improve our ritual schedule and have a couple changes that players have requested for a while that feel great about trying. In week 1 of Season 21, we're planning to run Trials of Osiris. So starting in week 1, we'll have trials because there won't be any power raise. So that's interesting. And in week 4, they will have Grandmasters available. So that's a much faster schedule for the season. We'll see how that ends up playing out, especially towards the latter weeks of the season. Looking forward to that. And then we have Exotic Armor Focusing. This is the one I've been waiting for personally. We're adding Exotic Armor Focusing to Raoul in Season 21. When this goes live, all exotic engrams, aside from the drops from activities that award exotics, will no longer auto-decrypt. These will sit in your engram inventory and can be focused at 2 different tiers. Very interesting. Red War leg decryption. What? It contains a random exotic leg piece first discovered during the Red War. That's awesome. Advanced decryption. Focus an exotic engram to a specific entitled release. Shadowkeep, Beyond Light, the Witch, etc. Just like now, exotics that came out alongside seasonal releases are always included in the previously yearly entitlement. Cost is 1 exotic engram, 1 ascendant shard, and 30,000 glimmer. Wow. Precision decryption. Directly focus the exotic armor you want, Therefore, it will have a higher cost, 1 exotic engram, 3 Senate shards, 60,000 glimmer, and 1 exotic cipher. Note, we plan to raise the exotic cipher stack limit from 1 to 5. Now that is awesome. That is what we have been waiting for. Definitely rejoice. Let me know your thoughts about that down in the comments. As before, you'll still be able to decrypt them at Rahul with no focusing for free. Note that you can't get new exotic pieces from exotic armor for focusing, so you'll need to collect them from the Vex Strike Force event or Lost Sectors in the meantime. In the future, we're looking to move acquiring new armor to a more accessible location. Very exciting, and then they have more to come. We also have several more updates you think you'll love in Season 21, but we're saving the details for when we're closer to the reveal of the season. Here's a preview of few. We're upgrading more than 15 of our lower performing exotic armors and rolling out balance changes to several others. We'll have some exciting news for players who enjoy improving their raid and dungeon exotic drop chances through triumphs. We're taking a pass at team unfriendly Vanguard bounties requiring specific weapon or ability kills, and more. Wow. Let me know your thoughts about all of that down in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed here if you want to stay up to date on all the news in Destiny 2. Smash the like button. I'll see you in the next one. Later.